Overnight, on First at 9 this Thursday the 14th of August 2025. Barriers to development. President Anura Disanayake temporarily suspends 2 wind power projects in Mana following complaints from local communities. Calls for measures to avoid delays in development projects in future, as it would mean losing opportunities to uplift the economy. Clearance delays. 400 containers of imported salt held up at port. Importers urge government intervention to prevent a possible salt shortage. Exceeding expectations. Household incomes expected to align with cost of living within a year, says Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe. Adds that Sri Lanka's economic recovery is outpacing forecasts. Foregone protection. Police have identified individuals who provided political protection to criminals. Legal action imminent, says the new IGP. Meanwhile, Senior Superintendent of the Police Cultural Division arrested for accepting bribes from organized criminals.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, you're joining First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story this evening, President Anura Disanayake declared the temporary suspension of 2 proposed wind power projects in Mana for a month, despite tenders being called and contracts awarded. During discussions held recently at the Presidential Secretariat, community representatives from Mana highlighted the environmental damage and impacts on residents from both the wind power projects as well as the ilmenite mining project in the area.
A discussion on the proposed Mana wind power plant project was held yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat under the patronage of President Anura Disanayake. Discussion focused on the country's energy needs and the importance of the Mana wind power plant to the national economy. During the meeting, decisions were taken to develop a framework to identify and resolve issues faced by local communities due to the wind power plant, and it was agreed to temporarily suspend the construction of the 2 wind power plants, one with a 20 megawatt capacity, which is already underway, and another proposed power plant of 50 megawatts. The suspension comes despite tenders being called and contracts awarded. The president emphasized that energy is a national resource not limited to one region, and that electricity costs affect not only household bills but also the cost of production, foreign investment and the entire economy. He also pointed out that further delays in development projects would mean missing opportunities to uplift the national economy, and noted that opposition to such projects hinders the government's ability to provide relief to investors and industrialists. Therefore, President Disanayake emphasized that all parties must reach conscious when implementing development projects and assure that the government is ready at any time to provide solutions to any impacts such projects may have on local communities. Meanwhile, community representatives from Mana directed attention to environmental damages and impacts on residents, both the wind power project and the ilmenite mining project. Responding to these concerns, the president said the projects would not proceed without approval from the Central Environmental Authority. The representatives also informed the president about the failure to properly implement environmental reports and recommendations, to which the president responded that the projects would be postponed for 1 month in order to study the issues faced by the people of Mana. Since the public has been fighting against the 20 megawatt wind power plant, we requested that the president to look into the matter. The president said construction would be suspended for a month and promised to provide solutions within that period.
රුපියල් 8,900ක මාසික වාරිකයකට brand new TVS XL100 යතුරු පැදියක් ගන්න.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says Sri Lanka's economy is recovering faster than previous forecasts. The CBSL chief said he expects household incomes to align with the cost of living within the next year. In an interview with Singapore-based media network CAN, Governor Veerasinghe addressed concerns over the new US tariffs, noting that Sri Lanka's growth is unlikely to be affected. He emphasized that the country remains competitive in the region despite reciprocal tariffs from the United States.
Do you think that the Sri Lankan economy has truly stabilized? Businesses and households now feel that it's healthier and they're willing to spend again?
Yeah, I think they are better than compared to the crisis year, but they are not yet in terms of household incomes, business incomes. They are not yet reached the level that they had before the crisis that I have had. Because once country hit with the crisis, it will take at least 4 to 5 years to come back to the same level, recover the output loss. In our case, within 3 years, we have almost reached there. In my view, within next year or so, we will obviously reaching more than the levels in terms of employment, the poverty, incomes and cost of living, and incomes will be comparable with the high cost of living within next couple of years. So basically, which means within 3 to 5 years, we will be able to reach levels where we were before. That's the path we think. It's not a quick fix. Once you lose the output, it will take some time to recover with all the reform. We have made a progress faster than what anyone expected earlier.
The new 20% tariffs on your apparels and garment industry, how much damage could this cause in terms of foreign earnings?
Now this 20% tariff, if we compare this first announcement 2nd of April by President Trump, it was 44% for Sri Lanka. Final announcement was 20%. Compared to our competitors or similar countries, those who are exporting to the US market, but in our view, we are in the same position as we were before the April tariff announcement compared to other countries. Obviously, level is high. Probably part can be absorbed by our businesses, exporters. Part will have to be absorbed by the supply chain in the US. That's how they have to manage it. In our expectation, there is no downward revision or there's no downward kind of expectation in terms of growth, for instance, earnings at the current levels. But what is uncertain is that whether these things can change. For example, yesterday, the US announced that another 3 months basically was given to China to negotiate further. No one knows the outcome of that negotiation. So we have to closely monitor. Right now, we are in a better position in my view than compared to where we were.
The Sri Lanka Salt Producers Association urges the government to promptly release the 400 containers of imported salt that have been stuck at the port of Colombo for more than 45 days. National organizer of the association, Chaminda Rusiru Maliadda, highlighted that no action has been taken regarding the situation despite multiple requests.
During the last few months, Sri Lanka experienced a decline in salt production due to changes in weather and this year's salt harvest falling short of expectations. Afterwards, a shortage of salt was created and the prices of salt were increased. To address the situation, measures were taken to import salt on 2 occasions. In such context, the Sri Lanka Salt Producers Association says 400 containers containing 28,000 metric tons of salt each still remain at the port of Colombo.
රටේ පැවති ලුණු හිඟයට විසඳුමක් වශයෙන් කර්මාන්තකරුවන් විදිහට අපි ඉදිරිපත් වුණා ලුණු ආනයනය කිරීමට ඉන්දියාවෙන්.
We stepped forward to import salt from India in order to address the country's salt shortage. However, around 400 containers have been stuck at the port for over 45 days due to an issue related to the date of the bill of lading. Each container holds at least 28,000 metric tons of salt. The chief offender in this case is the shipping company. As industrialists who pay taxes, we expect relief from the government in this matter. The Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Health should intervene and release these containers so that the benefits can be passed on to consumers. As producers, we aim to release these imports to the market at a fair price. We have informed all relevant authorities about this issue and our association has formally requested an opportunity for discussions. However, we have yet to be granted that opportunity.
අපි සංගමයක් විදිහට ලිම් කරලා තියෙනවා එලත් එක සාකච්ඡා කරන්න අවස්ථාවක් දෙන්න කියලා අපිට තාම එහෙම අවස්ථාවක් ලැබිලා නැහැ.
A demonstration took place outside the presidential secretariat today calling for a resolution to the land dispute in Muthunagar, Trincomalee. Residents, together with the People's Struggle Movement, allege the government plans to hand over about 800 acres of paddy fields in Muthunagar to an Indian company. Tensions rose as protesters blocked the main entrance to the secretariat. Police and riot control units were deployed to restore order. Later, 5 representatives were permitted to meet a senior assistant secretary to the president. The president's office has promised a solution by August 30th.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම අපාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says key sectors such as agriculture, healthcare and education are collapsing due to the government's actions. Speaking at a meeting in Monaragala yesterday, he also accused government of approving 7 projects allowing foreign investors to cultivate cannabis in Sri Lanka.
A meeting of SJB local government councillors in Monaragala was held yesterday.
ඔබට මතක ඇති රණසිංහ ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමා ඇඟලුම් පම්හල් 200 වැඩසටහන ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනකොට
Many oppose the 200 garment factory program by former President Premadasa, saying it exploited the youth to stitch undergarments for foreigners. The government has approved 7 projects allowing foreign investors to grow cannabis in Sri Lanka. Farmers are helpless. Sugar factories in Palwatta and Sivanagala are neglected. Hospitals face medicine shortages, including antibiotics and drugs for post-cesarean care. When they came to power, they promised sustainable solutions to the medicine shortage, but the free healthcare system is collapsing. The education system is also crumbling.
අපේ රටේ නිදහස් සෞඛ්‍ය පද්ධතිය කඩා වැටෙනවා. අධ්‍යාපන පද්ධතිය ගරා වැටෙනවා.
Leader of Sarva Janabale MP Dilith Jayavira says education reforms must be implemented systematically and aligned with modern, well-developed learning methods. He made these remarks yesterday during a dialogue on the proposed education reforms and the move to remove history from the list of compulsory subjects.
The inaugural session of a series of dialogues on education reforms, including the proposal to make history an elective subject, was held yesterday in Piliyandala. It was organised by Sarva Janabalaya Teachers Association with the participation of students and parents.
Those who love their country know that history must be taught to children. The president, during the Asala Perera at the temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic, said that there are attempts to drop history as a compulsory subject, even though it is part of our identity. This is true, we agree with him. According to the president, a certain individual is pushing this move against his wishes. The main aim of education reforms should be to empower students who can generate jobs, start businesses, think innovatively and become entrepreneurs. The current system, which forces students to memorize a year's work for a 3-hour exam, must discontinue. Extending 40 minutes lessons to 50 minutes will only tire students. They already wait for the bell to ring to rush out of school. Globally, advanced systems reduce rote learning and use creative methods to support education. We must plan reforms carefully with a clear process and quality syllabus and not randomly reform education without prior consultation. The process should be clear. Instead, the government is quietly trying to remove history without consultation.
Inspector General of Police and Attorney at Law Priyantha Veerasurya stated that politicians who have supported underworld figures and drug traffickers have already been identified and that legal action will be taken against them in the future. He made these remarks today while assuming duties as the 37th IGP of Sri Lanka.
The newly appointed Inspector General of Police, Priyantha Veerasurya, officially resumed office at the police headquarters this morning during an official ceremony. I am well versed in all aspects of the country's police service. I will do everything in my power to restore the police department's 159-year glory. I expect the utmost dedication from senior officers of the service to achieve the department's vision towards a peaceful environment to live with confidence without fear of crime and violence. Following the ceremony, the new IGP formally assumed duties. Some cowardly criminals who fail to live openly in this country are operating criminal activities in Sri Lanka from abroad. Political backing and protection enabled their operations in the past, but that protection is no longer there. Those criminals abroad continue to exploit drug dealers, addicts and even individuals within the Triforces and the police. We are closely monitoring these activities and have identified those who provided political protection to such criminals. We will take necessary legal action. We have also observed that current laws are insufficient to address these challenges. We have apprised the President as well as the Ministers of Justice and Public Security, and new legislation is being formulated. A significant number of illegal weapons are in circulation, including those that belong to the LTTE as well as firearms stolen from the Triforces and the police. I have assigned to the Criminal Investigation Department the probe into stolen weapons from the police.
Senior Superintendent of Police Satish Gamag was arrested today by the Bribery Commission on charges of accepting bribes from organised criminals and citizens seeking services from the police. After being produced before the Colombo Additional Magistrates Court, SSP Gamag was remanded until August 19th.
Senior Superintendent of Police Satish Gamag, attached to the Cultural Division of the Police Field Force Headquarters, was arrested early this morning by the Bribery Commission. The suspect was arrested on charges of accepting bribes from organised criminals and various other individuals who approached the police for services during his tenure in charge of the Gaul and Amblipitia Police Divisions. According to investigators, the Senior Superintendent had opened 3 bank accounts under another name and received approximately 14 million rupees from the relevant individuals within 8 months. The suspect was produced before the Colombo Magistrates Court later today. Bribery Commission officials said the suspect had committed offences under the Anti-Corruption Act and the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. According to the Bribery Commission, the suspect's WhatsApp number and details of a bank account belonging to an individual named Anurana had been revealed during the interrogation of a narcotics dealer named Dulauj Tharanga. Further investigations revealed that 3 bank accounts had been opened under the name Anurana and that the Senior Superintendent of Police had used the ATM cards linked to those accounts. The Commission further stated that bribes received from drug traffickers and organised criminals operating in the areas under the suspect's jurisdiction, as well as the public seeking justice from the police, had been deposited into those accounts. It was also revealed that the suspect's bodyguard had deposited nearly 1,483,000 rupees into the accounts on 100 occasions, while his driver had done so on 50 occasions. Additionally, Bribery Commission officials said the suspect had pressured Anurana, the account holder, not to provide evidence, but that Nanaya had submitted an affidavit to the Commission regarding this pressure. However, Gamag's lawyer requested the court to release the suspect on bail, citing the fact that no formal police complaint had been made regarding the alleged threat and that the 59-year-old suspect is a Senior Superintendent of Police suffering from illness. After considering the facts presented, the additional magistrate said the bail application could not be considered at this stage as the investigation is still ongoing. Accordingly, Colombo Additional Magistrate Pavitra Sanjeevani Patirana ordered that SSP Satish Gamag be held in remand custody until August 19th.
Representatives of several opposition parties gathered today to discuss the opposition's political future. Here's a look at opinions shared following the meeting.
Opposition representatives gathered at the residence of former Minister Professor G.L. Pires to discuss the opposition's political future.
ආණ්ඩුව ගැන සාකච්ඡා වෙන්නේ නෑ පොදුවේ රටේ ප්‍රශ්න ගැන අලුත් ආණ්ඩුව හදන්න නෑ අපෝ නෑ කිසිම අදහසක් නෑ මේ ආණ්ඩුවට අවුරුදු පහක් හදිස්සියේ මොකද අද සාකච්ඡාව නැති අපි ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා කතා කරනවා මොන සම්බන්ධව සාකච්ඡා කරන තමයි විවිධ දේවල් ඔක්කොම පක්ෂ එකතු වෙලා කතා කරනවා පයින් ආවා මොන වගේ ප්‍රශ්න කතා කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ කොච්චර ප්‍රශ්න රටේ දිනවදනේ කතා කරන්නේ රට හොඳට යනවනේ එහෙමද ඔයගොල්ලෝ හිතන්නේ අපේම කවුරුවත් ආණ්ඩුව වටන්න හදනව නෙමෙයි අපිට ඕන ආණ්ඩුව හොඳින් කරගෙන යනවා නම් මේ ජනතාවට සහන ලැබෙනවා නම් ඒක අපි හැමෝගෙම ප්‍රාර්ථනා අපි රටේ තියෙන දේශපාලන තත්ත්වය ඒව පිළිබඳව සාකච්ඡා කරමු ඒක සම්දාන ඔක්කොම විපක්ෂ ඔක්කොම එකතු කරලා සම්දානෙකුත් නැහැ විපක්ෂ එකතු වීමකුත් නැහැ එහෙම එකක් නැහැ තාම අපි ආරම්භක අවස්ථාවේ අපේ අදහස් මාරු කරගමින් ඉන්නේ ඒ කියන්නේ ආණ්ඩුව යන ගමන ගැන මොකද කියන්නේ ඒක තීන්දුව වෙන්න ඕන මහජන අදහස් වලින්නේ අපිට
The wild elephant, famously known as Kandela Mahadakaria, who had been receiving treatment for 4 months after being shot, passed away yesterday. The gunshot wounds to the elephant's legs were first identified in March, and wildlife officials treated the elephant on numerous occasions thereafter. However, the wild elephant did not fully recover from the Wildlife Department's medical treatment and fell into a critical condition a few days ago. According to the Department of Wildlife Conservation, it was reported that around 232 wild elephants have died due to human-elephant conflicts during the first 7 months of this year. Welcome back. The Committee on Public Finance has approved the bill to establish the Gambling Regulatory Authority, paving the way for an independent body to oversee and standardize betting and gaming operations in Sri Lanka. The decision was made during the committee meeting held on Tuesday, chaired by MP Rauf Hakim. The bill aims to minimize social harm, support tourism and boost economic growth through regulated gambling. The committee, after multiple discussions on the bill, emphasized the importance of a comprehensive regulatory framework to manage the sector. The Colombo Stock Exchange experienced mixed sentiment and high levels of volatility, mirroring the trend observed in recent session as investors resorted predominantly towards profit-taking. The SPI closed at 19,929, registering a drop of 47 points amidst moderate fluctuations throughout the day. The index opened with brief gains before declining during midday but recovered slightly towards the close of trade. Negative drivers towards the index marginally outweighed the positive, with Haley's, Sampath, Central Finance Company, Cargill's and NDB leading the way. Today's turnover amounted to 7.1 billion, marking an 11% increase from the monthly average of 6.4 billion. Transportation sector dominated turnover, contributing 20%, followed by banking and diversified financial sectors with a combined contribution of 34%. Foreign investors were net sellers with net outflow of 28.5 million rupees. S&P Global today upgraded India's sovereign rating to BBB from BBB negative. This is the first time India received a sovereign rating upgrade since 2017. BBB negative is the lowest investment grade rating by a credit rating agency. An upgrade from that point results in lowering bond yields and better borrowing costs for the government. The transfer and convertibility assessment has also been revised to a negative from BBB positive. India's benchmark 10-year bond yield fell 7 basis points to 6.4% in early trading. S&P projects India's GDP will grow by 6.8% annually over the next 3 years and says the impact of US tariffs on Indian exports will be manageable. And with that, let's take a look at the day's foreign exchange rates. That's all for tonight from First at 9. For the latest developments around the clock, stay in touch with Ada Derana, the Sri Lankan news brand of international excellence. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.